Hello everyone, welcome back to the Python series. In the previous video, we learned what Python is and how to take input from users and how to display it using the print function. Today we are going to learn one of the most important concepts in programming, variables. Once you understand variables, you will be able to store information, reuse it later and build real applications. We will also learn about Python data types and take a small look at how Python stores data in memory. So let's get started. Why do we need variables? Let's think about a simple situation. Suppose I ask your name. You tell me your name once. Now imagine that every time I want to use your name, I ask you again and again. That would be annoying, right? Instead, I can simply remember your name and use it whenever I need it. Computers work in similar way. Programs often need to remember information so that it can be used later. That's exactly why variables exist. Variables help us store data in memory. Let's create our first variable. Name equals to Sahitya. Let's understand what's happening here. On the left side we have name. This is the variable name. On the right side we have Sahitya. This is the value. And the equal sign does not mean equals like in mathematics. In programming it means store this value inside this variable. Whatever the value we have on the right side will be assigned to the variable in the left side. Now we can use that variable whenever we want. Before we continue, you might notice that I am using an .ipynb file instead of .py file. Both are used to write Python code, but they are designed for different purposes. A .py file is a standard Python script. It's commonly used for building applications, automation tools, websites, and larger Python projects. An .ipynb file, also called a Jupyter notebook, allows us to write code in small cells and execute them one by one. This makes it much easier for learning, experimentation, debugging, and data science workflows. Since this course is focused on understanding concepts step by step, I will be using Jupyter notebooks in many of the tutorials because they make the learning process more interactive and beginner-friendly. And let's run this program. Okay, our output Sahitya has printed. Now let's talk about naming variables. Python allows us to choose almost any meaningful name, but there are few rules. A variable can contain letters, numbers, and underscores, but a variable cannot start with a number and does not contain spaces in the variables and should not use any special symbols like @. For example, we can use like this. This is perfectly valid variable name. And we can also use like this. Age 123, combination of alphanumeric, and also we can use like this std name with a student name. Here this is not the valid variable name because it is an hyphen symbol, so we should not use any special symbols like hyphen, @ and many more. We can use the only symbol is underscore, and the variable name also can start with the underscore symbol. This is also a valid variable name. And you should not create variables like this. Now let's move to next concept. Variables can store different kinds of information. For example, a name is text, an age is a number, a price can contain decimals. And in decision making we use yes or no answers. Python needs a way to understand what kind of data it is storing and working with. That's where data types come in. Let's start with the strings. A string is simply text. Anything inside the quotes is treated as a string. For example, I'm writing here, my name is Sahitya. This is a valid string because I wrote inside the double quotation marks, or we can also use a single quotation marks too. And we can store it in a variable. I'm storing it in a variable called name. And let's print this. Next we have integers. Integers means the numbers which are not having any decimal points. For example, let's say age equals to 25 and print this. This is the integer data type. If we add the quotes for this data, it will become string data type. So now here in the output it is 25. Even whether it is string and whether it is an integer. How do we know what type of data a variable contains? Python provides a function called type. This function returns what type of data is stored inside the variable. Let's say here I'm checking the type of name. Okay, here you can see this is the string data type. And if we check the type of age, this is an integer data type. And if we put the double quotation marks here, you can say this is a string data type. This is a very useful function when you are debugging programs. And we have another data type, float. Let's say we have height here. Let's say 5.6 and print this height and type of the data. Let's run this cell. You can see here 5.6 with decimal point. It represents the float data type. And we have another data type called Boolean. Booleans are extremely important because they help programs make decisions. We will use them a lot when we learn conditions later. The first letter should be in capital. If he is a student, it is true. Or else we can write here like false. Let's print this variable is student. And let's check that data type of this variable. You can see the type function returned the Boolean data type. Now let's look at something more important. When we create a variable, where does this value actually go? It gets stored somewhere in memory. Python allows us to see the identity of an object using id function. For example, we have a equals to 10. Now, the a variable contains the integer data type, and the value is 10. Now, let's write print. Inside the print, we write id function. In the id function, we pass the parameter a. Now, let's run this cell. We see here a large number. That number represents the object's identity in memory. Let's say b also contains the value 10. In many cases, both IDs will be the same. Why? Because Python is smart. Instead of creating two separate objects, Python reuses the same object. If we check the identity address of both values, now we can see here both IDs are the same. This process in Python we call as interning. Interning is a process to make the memory optimization by allocating the same objects for small integers, which are commonly used in the program, like we have here a equal to 10 and b equal to 10. So, the a and b reference variables will point to the same data, which is stored in the memory like an object. Here the memory address is 2001. The interning works only from -5 to 256. For example, if we have a x equals to 400 and y equals to 400. Now what happens? Here Python will not allocate the same object memory for both variables. Now let's print the ID and check whether it is referenced to the same memory location. You can see here we have different memory object addresses here. Integers from -5 to 256 are commonly cached in Python. And below the -5 and above the 256, we don't have any interning process. Interning process is only done to the integers by the Python. So in this video, we'll learn what variables are and why variables are needed, some variable naming rules, and a basic introduction to memory and ID functions. These concepts form the foundation of almost every Python program you will write. In the next video, we will learn about operators and how Python performs calculations and comparisons. See you in the next tutorial.